Hi everyone, I'm very happy to be here and virtually meet you. Thank you for having me. I am Olivares from Santiago de Chile, software architect currently working for Warner Media as digital operations manager supporting streaming products. I've been in the web development industry for quite some time. In fact, what I first had in my signature was webmaster. Back in the day, when bringing a website into production was drag and drop files via FTP with FileZilla, building dynamic pages in the Web 2.0 was the new thing to do. I also designed, sold, and then keep those websites running, so they wouldn't stop working and deliver the expected result. Since then, I understood two important things. The web was the place where I want to develop my career, and the user should be at the center of everything. About how the web works. In this cool graphic, we can see how simple it is, and all the things can fail. We have the DNS validation, for example, where some cache always exists, but if that fails, we will feel some delays. Also, the connection between the browser and our server have different steps, and there our browser can answer properly with an error code like 404 or 500, but normally we will receive a 200 response. Then our browser should analyze and interpret our content from the HTML and CSS to our magic JavaScript. When all of this works well, we will have our page finally load. Simple, isn't it? I know it's not so simple, but let's make it simple. The web browser sends a content request to our web server. The web server decodes it and finds our content. And then the server sends it back to our web browser, who paints the content to make it visible to us. Let's look at it from a user perspective. Continuous loading, almost there, continuous loading, almost there, almost there. And page is not loading. Who hasn't it, right? Well, today I want to talk to you about Observability 101 to introduce us to this interthings concept, but also something relevant that goes beyond this practice. In this talk, you will learn why caring about observing your application can change the smile of your users. That's my promise for today. Let's start by setting some context. You are in a startup, or maybe you work for a huge corporation. If you are in a startup, for sure it's a chaotic show, where there are different experts like Devops, product managers, and even the role of webmaster appears in a full stack controversial name of these days. In huge corporations, it's not so different. We have a bit of chaos show in the middle of everything is fine feeling. Full stack role? Sure, why not? Here, the agile took the executive meetings, and machine learning is the new OKR, for sure, right? But among so much chaos, there are questions that I can bet you arise, no matter in what type of organizations you are. DevOps? Those are the ones that monitoring the servers, right? Analytics? Oh, yes, that's the product manager seen in the monitoring, right? No? Web performance? Logs? No time. DevOps? But what is DevOps? Many times we talk about DevOps as a role, and yes, it is a role in many cases where it represents the capability of continuous integration and continuous delivery mainly. But also DevOps is actually born as the union of which the development, quality, and operation of our applications. Very oriented to generate a cultural change. As a culture, DevOps is based on three important points to benefit of our business agility. First is people, process, and tools. Traditionally, in organizations where there is no DevOps culture, we have two groups. On one hand, we have the development team who need to generate new features in addition to responding to the business with dates and different strategies for all requirements. So they are measured by that. And on the other hand, we have the IT or operations teams who are measured by the stability and availability of the system. So on the one side, we have developers pushing new features, and on the other side, we have operations saying, don't push new features. No matter what kind of organizations we run, that is where the origin of many problems we have today. And one of them is people believe monitoring the app is not my problem. With DevOps, the organizations begin to perceive important benefits, such as increase the speed and quality. Creating multidisciplinary team through this culture, for their operations, the speed and quality is one important benefit. But also gaining more focus of the business, something that the all IT operation teams do not always have. Some use cases where DevOps culture will bring to any organization are optimizing the core business through the integration of pipelines that allow us to have feedback to the application and help it grow in quality and stability. On the other hand, unlocking the legacy is another great benefit to this about the cultural change in the old ways. Integrating development and operations into a single multidisciplinary team, generating synergies between those teams that are typically separate, transforming those DevOps engineers or former operation specialists into enablers of the core business optimizations. We will have unlocking the legacy and changing the old ways of working. So DevOps is about nicely dashboards? Well, no. DevOps is a cultural change that we should already have in organizations these days. With this, we will mainly remove boundaries to focus on business growth and the mainly goal for all our teams. Once we achieve this, a new topic appears in the teams. Responsibility over stability and operation, and with that comes monitoring, because clearly, if we want stability, monitoring what happens in production is what you should try. So we start monitoring. For example, my blog. We have the dashboards of business indicators. Given that my business is have more users reading my post, I will focus this dashboard in understood the new users and sessions on my blog page. Now I will open my KPI OS dashboard to understand what is happening with my cloud code consumption this month. Then I need to check my logs because I want to know if I have errors. One question, do you have logs? Right. Yes, you have logs because for sure, all of us have it, right? I'm a big fan of web performance, so I have been creating my specific dashboard to understand more the front-end performance. And the other day, I started looking my feature ready now, a lot of error with connections of the app, and I fixed it. So I will monitor in my Sentry error rates too. I think it's clear, right? A lot of dashboards. Sure. Have you seen yourself like this? I always asking myself the question of how do we all imagine we look with so many dashboards being effective? And always I imagine this setup. So the problem beyond the paradox of the lack of monitors to monitoring in when we ask ourselves or are asked the question, what has changed? What are the source of the failure? Can we answer this question with our 1001 window monitoring? This is where observability becomes our friend. Observability is the ability of your system to expose data about its performance and behavior. In order we can monitor, analyze, and alert about certain trends or change. Make a system observable doesn't happen by itself. We need to work to get it, and understanding its advantages versus just monitoring is key to understanding why it is a good investment. If we compare observability versus monitoring, we can highlight, for example, observability allows us to gain context, while monitoring depends on my intention to go looking for that context. On the other hand, the question that arises when we have well-applied observability will base on hypotheses, and that I will be able to generate thanks to the context. While in a monitoring-only dashboard, I will be able to generate questions based on what is there on the dashboard. How much variation and dynamism can we support with monitoring dashboards? Not so much, right? Observability, by allowing us to gain context, is born to handle dynamic and changing environments, where monitoring is always static with little variations. And finally, an interesting point. The organizations that have little variations but know how they change will always prefer common monitoring, while an organization that also not know will tend to prefer observability. Now, let's back to the user for a moment. The amazing user experience the designers create to be implemented by the development team is not being amazing just because we are not understanding the root cause, like what has changed. Now, if we embrace the DevOps culture, we will be able to stop feeling not part of monitoring just because we develop features. And we will start understanding better what is happening or what has changed. So, with this in mind, let's dig a little deeper, talking about the base element of observability, the telemetry. A telemetry system allows us to obtain remote measurements of either a software or hardware component. In today's world, where we have everything in the cloud, this becomes crucial. How do you orchestrate it when you have different cloud providers or don't want to rely on native integrations from a specific cloud provider? OpenTelemetry tries to solve it through a set of APIs, SDKs, tools, and integrations designed for the creation of telemetry data, such as traces, metrics, and logs. The project is open source and seeks to provide a solution agnostic to any cloud provider today. With this in mind, let's understand how observability works. On one hand, of the creators of OpenTelemetry, Being single man, has this graphic that I quite like it to explain in a simple way to anatomy of observability. In this graphic, we can distribute in 3 layers telemetry, storage, and the benefits from less to more. In telemetry, we will find that are some people call the 3 pillars of observability, but in really they are the 3 key inputs of telemetry. Here, the OpenTelemetry standard will help us to standardize the instrumentation of these metrics, logs, and traces of our app. In simple, in telemetry layer lives the events of my application. Then, in the second storage layer, we are going to find transactional and time series-oriented databases, or TSDBs. The first one is ideal for storing transactional traces and logs. The second one is perfect for statistics from metrics or transactions. Both types of DBs are capable to supporting high query demand and together support a key combination or aggregation to obtain the benefits we are looking for. In simple, here in the storage layer, we are going to add a time variant to our data or events. Finally, as we see in the third layer, one of the benefits is to be able to monitor critical signals, connecting the health of individual component with the health of our business. On the other hand, understanding the changes bring us closer to the most important question in observability. What caused that change? With this, we can speed up the response time to an incident and having faster mitigations. In simple, here we will aggregate the data for our benefit or needs. So, applying to my blog, let's see how my setup should look like now. Much better, isn't it? And now, we know that DevOps is a culture where we are all part of the quality, operation, and development of our applications, integrating multidisciplinary teams. Who should be monitoring my application? It's clear. We all can and should do it. And better yet, if we apply observability practice, everything will be easier, and our users will be happier. So, we will see a dashboard giving us information from a single application on a single screen, allowing us to understand the impact of the new errors of my feature, or latency increasing times, or so much new user reading my posts. Here, the aggregation will answer the key questions I need to solve when we are in production, seeing graphically. The questions and answers we can ask ourselves when we look at this data are very different from when we look at in different dashboards. So, to summarize, observability has different benefits. For each team, clearer communication, more effective deployments, contextual monitoring. And for each service, we have reducing the MTTR, latency, and error rates. On the other hand, there are costs involved in getting my system fully observed, such as the effort in telemetry to obtain the data from the different metrics and data from the events that occur in my systems, either in logs or traces. There is also a cost of analysis through third-party tools or those available in my on-prem server or my VPC of my cloud provider. Finally, two things is clear. Observability is a team task, and it is not a task of those who in the role carry the name of Devops. Thanks for listening to me so far, and thanks for Reliable Web Summit team for inviting me. See you in the next time, and if you want to follow me on Twitter, I am always talking about one or another technology topic I am involved. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Hey, it's Joe Eames with ng-conf. If you like that video, be sure to click subscribe either here or here, somewhere over here. And if you're looking for something more, here's another video for you to watch here or there or somewhere.